items provided on.
Thank you.
We didn't ask for her to make a comment.
That was called to the public.
Call the public. This item is to provide an opportunity for presentation of comments by the public on subjects that are not on the agenda. Please complete a request for public input card. Submit to CYMPO staff prior to the beginning of the meeting. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes in general. Any members of the public attending virtually wishing to address the board may request the speaker provide a written comment by using the raise my hand or Q&A comment features available through the webinar. The board shall not discuss or take action on matters raised during the call of the public. The board may direct staff to study the matter for consideration at another date. All right. So do we have anybody here for call of the public? Not seeing any. Moving on to item 5. Consideration and possible action approved January 18th, 2023 executive board regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
I so move to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
Second.
seconded by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Executive director's update. Take it away, Vinnie.
Thank you. Can you pull up the card for it? Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'll keep my announcements brief since we do have a very long agenda for you today. We wish to thank Mayor Hughes and the town of Dewey Humboldt for your hospitality and being here in your chambers. Thank you, John.
Yep.
CYMPO has completed. We've done the annual updates to the cities, towns, and the county. So we had the opportunity to present to each of your councils, board of supervisors over the last couple months. So we appreciate those visits with all of you, of course, annually. And then just a reminder that this Friday, the State Transportation Board meeting will be hosted by the town of Prescott Valley by Mayor Palguda and staff. It'll be Friday, the 17th, 9 a.m. in the Prescott Valley Library Auditorium where Mayor and Council has their meeting. So we look forward to Chairman Knight joining the board and visiting the greater CYMPO region. With that said, Mr. Chair, happy to take any questions or comments.
No questions, but I'm going to make everybody aware. Maury Thompson is here. He is the administrator for Yavapai County. And I don't know that you've all met him or not, so just welcome, Maury. Go ahead, Vinny. I'm sorry. What was the last part?
That's all, sir. Any questions or comments? Happy to address them.
Now, did everybody that's attending tomorrow night get a copy of the agenda? And
I need to follow up with Mayor Good after the meeting. He has a part to welcome us to the city of Prescott. So I think I may have mentioned to him before, but I also have one other item to ask him. So let's
Look forward to speaking with you.
yes,
Mr. Gallegos.
Mr. Mayor Good. We'll talk after the meeting.
all right.
So,
we're all
thank
set
you.
then.
Mm.
Okay, pending project updates.
Lindsay. Lindsay.
Lindsay?
And we're staying here.
Yes.
Okay. All
I
right,
don't
thank you.
recognize Lindy without her mask. So.
No, it's strategic. So that when you see me on the dance floor, you don't know that it's me who dances that poorly. My first update today, Mr. Chair, members of the board, is on the SR 69 Urbanized Master Corridor Plan. Kittleson, our chosen consultant, is currently working on data collection and analysis of the existing conditions of the corridor. As you know, the purpose of this plan is to evaluate the corridor for safety and capacity improvements, and will provide a prioritized list of segments for a path towards implementation. We have worked with our consultant based on the last the meeting that Mr. Gallegos has just referenced when we were here in Dewey Humboldt, where we realized that with the movement of our residents in central Yavapai County, it makes more sense to extend the boundaries of this plan 2 miles from 169 to right here on Main Street, with where, of course, we are today, where the post office is and where Subway is. And it makes more sense given the origin and destination information that we know about and how our residents commute. So we've worked with our consultant to modify the east boundary so that we can consider the movements on those last 2 miles.
Do you need us to approve that?
Yes, we'll continue to work with the consultant to understand what, if any, monetary additions we'll need to bring to this body for approval. Is that
And
correct?
when you
Mr.
do,
Davis?
please bring it to us as soon as we, you know.
We will.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. My second update is on the Sundog connector, which is to say there is no real update today. Our consultants continue to work on engineering for the draft alternatives and are working with the city and the county to verify the data that they need to be able to produce those alternatives and the no-build alternatives. So we are allowing them to do that. No updates today.
Lindsay, are you or Vinny going to give us an update on the survey that was given to the people in that immediate area?
The safety survey that you received in your email?
Right.
Yes, Bryn will.
Bring it on.
Mhm. Thanks for asking. My last update for pending projects is the project assessment. As you may remember from when we first began this back in September, we put out a request for proposals for a consultant to help us align our upcoming projects with upcoming grants that are available to us. So we worked with your respective staff and the consultant to align those projects and to get a list of projects for the next couple of years, and to align those with the available funding opportunities from the federal government and from the states. And we'll provide sort of roadmap that the locals can take and apply for funds with as much success as humanly possible. So we put $20,000 into this project, similar to how we did with the HSIP projects. And we look forward to seeing how much we get from that. So we actually expect the first roadmaps this week, and we look forward to sharing those with you all and with your respective staffs. Mr. Chair, those were my updates for today. I do welcome any questions.
Any questions? Don't see any. Any questions, Gary?
No, no questions.
Okay, thank you. All right. Moving right on to transit and mobility, Bryn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Just a quick update on transit and mobility today. I'm back with more good news. Pedro Rodriguez of the town of Prescott Valley continues to report ridership data to us, and it's just ever so encouraging. In fact, it's really beyond all expectations. Again, the percentage for rides taken to and from employment are exceeding now 40%. The last exact number I got was 41%. That's an incredible data point for the success of this very new system. So it's very encouraging. And
Is there
indeed,
any centralized location that actually picks up more people go for employment than another, or is just in general?
Pedro's data that has been provided to CYMPO at this point hasn't drilled down to those specific locations, but we do have the opportunity to gain that data, and we'd be happy to report back on that.
When we do get that data, obviously report it back to us, but it might be interesting to YRT as well.
Absolutely. And indeed, the implementation of Yavaline is really ahead of schedule, and ridership is actually starting to suggest that we may need more capital in the way of vehicles prior to the next phase of the implementation. So CYMPO is preparing to meet with town leadership. We have a meeting scheduled for later this month to discuss those options. Other funding sources potentially may be in play, and also just to get our arms around the implementation schedule for Yavaline and to see if any tweaks need to be made to our transit implementation plan. And that may be the case, just so that we can capture all of the opportunity that we have here with the ridership, the current ridership that is so strong.
So what is your current ridership numbers?
I apologize, I don't have the slides with us today. What Pedro communicated.
I didn't know if you knew that Pedro's behind you.
Oh, I
If you
didn't.
need to reference him, so.
Oh, everybody snuck in.
I didn't know that you-
Pedro just happens to have.
So he might have that information.
I didn't know he was coming. We were talking on the way over here,
Pedro,
actually.
you can come on up to that podium right there, so people that are on Lincoln is.
Thank you, Pedro.
Good to see you, Pedro, and thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. So current ridership numbers are 6,500.
in well, just about 6 months.
Yeah.
So that's total.
Wow.
Yeah, as you mentioned, 41% are employment, another 8 to 9% are medical, another 4 to 5% are education. Shopping is another 12%. We have an other category, for onesie, twosie type trips to the bank or paying utility bill or whatever it would be. So, and that's another, as mentioned, 12-15%. I'm missing a category here, but it's just from memory. The other interesting demographic is 30% for seniors, which it fulfills one of our goals is providing trips for seniors.
What's your monthly numbers? What's your trends there?
Sure. So right now we're averaging about 350 to 415 trips per week. It amounts to 4 to 5 trips per hour for the system. What are the numbers like?
How's it trending?
And it's trending positively. Month over month, we're gaining about 15 to 20% increase.
At which point do you feel that you will need additional capital investment to respond to me?
Right now.
Yeah.
Right now, we're right at capacity. We have New Horizons. They're a very good partner in what we're doing. They have been able to provide us with some vehicles for overflow. So in case if we do exceed our capacity, they're able to provide some trips for us, just to meet that.
Were you projecting to be at the capacity this quickly since you're?
No, we did not. It was more for 3/4, about 9 months in. Was more of our target to expand.
So we're at what month now? Approximately
We're at 6.
6. Okay, we're at 6 months approximately. Have you seen any trends on employment where people are going to work? Is this at the hospital or is it the, college,
question.
school?
Yeah. So we have the most trips are near the civic center area. So you have all of the government buildings. You have also just south of it, which is included in that number, YRMC. And then to the west, you're looking at more shopping toward Walmart, Fry's, Kohl's, as well as I believe the furthest west is also picking up right now. I can provide you more specific.
Are you receiving any calls or requests for transportation outside of the city?
Yes, that's.
What do you do in regards to those?
Yeah, the nice part of our software is that we can call them if they are requested via the mobile application. We can actually call them and say, hey, we can't provide you with that trip outside of the transit zone. As people call in, we also let them know the same news. So it's just within our transit zone, which is in the main core.
Do you ever make any referrals to other transit systems?
We have options. That'd be something good to follow up with you on. We can provide them a couple of options, obviously YRT for Chino if that's where they're going. We have done a little bit of analysis if there's any transfers between the two systems. Very, very minimal as of right now. But yeah, we can provide additional resources that are available in the rural areas. There's that. NACOG has a really good search tool that searches actually all of Arizona. So we can find
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we have a certain amount of money that's received on an annual basis for the purpose of the transit? Just transit?
Yes. Okay.
Is it not supposed to also stretch into the future, go also to the city of Prescott?
That is part of the phased implementation plan, correct?
You have that as a part of the plan.
It's already in the
Yes.
plan.
Yes.
Yeah, and just for clarification, that to Supervisor Brown's comment, the urbanized area is in this case identified as Prescott and Prescott Valley.
Right.
So there's no separation here. So
No, I'm just wondering because, right now, he's telling us what, is happening and most of it's occurring within the city limits, which is great. But if we have something going outside the city limits, eventually we will have to have some way to respond.
which, Mr. Chair, members of the board, that would be exactly true, and that is phase two. The CYMPO plan, the transit plan shows expansion into the city of Prescott. So in theory, if we follow the plan, which we are to date, that within the next year, that expansion service would encompass the city of Prescott also. So this conversation would just roll and continue into that particular area. And another clarification too, when you said the annual monies, the annual money currently is $1.7 million. That still has not been used for this transit system. What they're working off of is CARES Act funds that were part of that annual apportionment, but were given, as you all know, through the COVID period for a number of uses. But the Prescott Valley received around $3.5 million of CARES Act funds, of which Pedro is using at this point, or the town's using.
So we got some pretty good funding going forward.
The CARES Act funds is 100% funded. The question for us at the end with Prescott Valley leadership at the end of this month is, what does it look like once the CARES Act funds is used, which will be here in the next few years? And then what does it look like for that 1.7 in particular as the match is related to that?
Well, we'd also be looking at, Prescott Valley would be making recommendations to us about what their expansion may look like.
Absolutely. So as you're familiar with Supervisor Brown, again, CYMPO created the plan. We did an update when COVID hit for transit. The CYMPO board accepted that plan. At this time, the town is working within the plan. They have the ability to work outside of it if they choose. But I would say in our partnership, we have open communication, and there's a recent slight modification. I believe one part of our plan talked about partnership. This is just an example, partnership with the taxi companies. Well, town leadership, staff, there's obstacles as it relates to insurance and a number of other things. So they are modifying the plan. And they're communicating that currently with staff, but greater changes will report back to you as a board.
Jenny, what's your annual or your monthly operating expenses running now?
Pedro?
So right now, up to date, we've spent about 600,000, and that includes studies to get us up and rolling. The federal government requires a variety of studies prior to beginning the service. But month over month, we're looking about 35,000 again for that type of microtransit zone, running 2.5 to 3 vehicles every week, or every day. 2 shifts. We run from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday.
And what was the percentage of seniors that are using the service?
30%.
30%. And you define them as 65 plus?
60 plus.
60.
Just want to piggyback on that, Pedro. I spoke to someone today, and their story was they're relocating their elderly parent to Prescott Valley from Yavapai Hills. And as you can actually imagine, they don't want to leave their home and they don't want to come to Prescott Valley or for whatever they're comfortable where they're at. And when they were during discussions, they discussed about the micro transit system and how their parent is excited now to come to Prescott Valley to be able to go to the library, go shopping, and go see friends. So it's something where literally it created a better quality of life for this individual based off of this system. So, yeah. What's that? What I just said? No, it was a person that came up and told me the story about them wanting to come to.
That's not an uncommon theme. So it's not, something a lot of people are considering is they can't drive anymore, or they don't feel comfortable driving unless it's just maybe to one place or another. They need to go to entertainment or doctors or educational even for that goes, or even show up as a volunteer.
Yeah.
So they need different types of transit and or ways to go, and the more cars we take off the road, the better, especially when the 80-year-olds are driving on the wrong side of it.
You're not wrong.
69.
Yeah, that's one I was thinking.
Yeah,
So,
two
yeah,
80-year-olds at each other.
it, absolutely would be a big benefit for the elderly population here. So anything we can do to increase our availability, shall we say, and our service to them would be greatly appreciated, I'm sure. Tom, you're taking note of all this, right?
I'm sorry?
You're taking note of this, aren't you? I know you guys haven't got your hearing aids on, you know.
Yes, I am.
All right,
Thanks, Pedro.
Thank you.
Pedro.
good job.
Mr. Chair, when you consider that I believe in the first week, Yellow Line had 28 rides, 400 and up to 415 rides in a week is
A big jump,
quite astounding.
6 months, yes.
It's a big jump. That's great news, and thank you, Pedro, for being here and having that data view.
Brent, let
for
me
us.
ask you one, this is kind of a tongue-in-cheek question. Are any of these folks paying anything for the ride?
Yes,
Some are.
yeah,
Do we know how much income there has been? I know it's
Very
going to be
minimal.
not a lot. We're not looking at it for income or service, but it would be interesting to know.
The income is very minimal. It's $2 per ride. For seniors and children under 5 is free. 5 to 17 is $1. 18 to 60 is $2, and 60 plus is $1. People just split it as $1. So it's very, very minimal. You're not looking at.
I didn't say we were doing this to make money.
Right. If I could offer a comment, Brent,
please.
Mr. Chair. Often fares simply serve as a deterrent to bad behavior. There's something about when we pay for something, we value it more. And so there's a lot of studies and research in this industry about what happens when you go fare free, and it costs a lot to maintain the bus. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it also keeps people from asking for something and thinking it's going to be gratis all the time.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you, Lindsay. Mr.
so
Chair?
we'll have some better numbers maybe in the future.
Yes, and we'll have Pedro Rodriguez at every meeting. I do have one other item though, Mr. Chair, on the transit and mobility update. I wanted to just make mention that Yavapai Regional Transit is still our rural transit system here in the CYMPO region, and we continue to support their activities. Recently, I was contacted by Ms. Sandy Studi, who used to be involved in their transit management, and she is coming back into service with YRT, at least on a freelance basis, perhaps as a grant writer. So I think that's great news, because Sandy and I have collaborated over the years on transit initiatives and other items, and she's wonderful to work with. And I know that she's going to offer a lot of support to YRT and its operations. But we are very proud of YRT and the great job they're doing in rural transit around here, because they have a service that people have come to rely on, and that's obvious in their ridership data as well.
Well, I think that, Tom, you want to come up and talk about YRT just real quick for a moment, since you're on the agenda? Introduce yourself, go ahead, Owen, will you?
My name is Tom Smalls, and I'm the transit manager at YRT.
So where are you at as far as expansion?
Well, we've talked about expanding into Paulding, and we do have a location that was talked about behind the Ace store. There is a grocery store there, which would be a perfect stop for us to be able to turn around. A gentleman by the name of Mark is the owner. I went up and met with him. It would be a perfect place for us to expand. We are going to be putting together a presentation to present ADOT.
Mark is the owner of the,
His name is Mark, and I don't remember his last name.
the owner of the grocery state? Or
Yeah,
the-
he owns the grocery store behind the Ace store, and it would be a perfect location for us to turn around. And he's also offered to let any potential riders park there as well.
That'd be good.
And then we had discussed a little bit about, coming down into Dewey, but I think one step at a time here. So we would really like to add Alden if we could and service it 2 days a week. With two trips in the morning and 2 trips in the afternoon. That would be our goal.
Well, I talked to somebody yesterday, related to the transit, and they were urging us to move something to YRT in the Paulding area, especially to service people that are going to work, especially in Prescott Valley and Prescott. Yeah, some kind of a line that runs down. It's basically like 7:09, 7:30 to 9 or 8:30 or something, whatever the times would be appropriate to get them down into there. So they also, like it's already we're seeing in Prescott Valley, a large percentage is going to work. That means you got them down there, you're going to be bringing them back.
Absolutely, and I think it would be a great benefit to all of them for sure.
Yeah.
And right now, as you are aware, most of our transportation is not to and from work. So that would be an opportunity for us to service that area.
I mean, most of yours is to the store and or to the doctor, so. Well, we did a survey of the health services that we have out of the county. They're at YRMC East. And about a third of the people that are going there are all from Paulding, or at least they have Paulding zip codes. So.
Yes, and I would believe that. And our ridership is also up for the year. We anticipate probably transporting roughly 16,000 or slightly over. In our last fiscal year, we did 14,608. So we are continuing to show growth.
All right,
Thank you, Tom.
thank you, Tom.
Thanks. Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Any other
Unless you have
questions?
other
for Brent
questions.
or anybody else?
You're okay.
Good.
How about an update on the Indians? There's,
Yavapai Apache
Yes.
is planning to do a route expansion, and we are still working through the background legal aspects of that.
okay,
So I continue to work with their team. Yes, I'm still in process.
thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Are you talking about the Yavapai or are you talking about the Apache?
Yavapai Apache Nation, which is over in Camp Verde. Based in Camp Verde, they have a transportation program. And one of their current initiatives is to make a Western Central Yavapai expansion route where they do a big loop from Camp Verde through all of the unincorporated area leading over to Prescott Valley and Prescott. So they will literally be making stops in Spring Valley, Mayer, Dewey Humboldt. So they'll be able to pick up riders and return them same day, provided the scheduling works with those riders on that loop. And they
So they'd
will,
be coming into the RMPO's
Yes.
area.
yes, and they will be coming in all the way into the city of Prescott. And one of their designated stops is to be the VA.
As far as the city of Prescott,
VA.
VA is probably. the
Yes.
reason, right? Okay.
Yes. I believe they're contemplating more than one stop in Prescott, and we're working through those details now, but for sure they would like to be servicing the VA campus. They have tribal members over there that need to service the VA, need access to the VA campus.
Any other question? Not hearing any. Thank you, Brent.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, Vinny, to regional safety initiatives and an update.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, just an update on some of the work we're doing in regional safety initiatives. If I can also, Sherry Hanna was supposed to join us today. She is unavailable. She contacted me earlier today. She sends her apologies. We had extended an invite to her because of our safe driving campaign. And she's also kicked off a safe driving campaign on the radio. I believe its title Keep Prescott Prescott. And we were going to have her here to give you all an update on that. So just if you can table that part, she'll come at a future meeting and share what she's doing there. With regards to other regional safety initiatives of what we're doing, just want to remind you that we are currently conducting a safety study. The last safety study that we did was in 2018, so we are updating that. This is 5 years later. We've entered into a partnership in Northern Arizona with NACOG and the Flagstaff MPO So we're going to get our own safety study, but we have one consultant working with those three entities. Just to let you know, part of that safety plan is to look at each of your crash data analysis for the 5-year period between 2017 and 2021. Bryn had previously shared it at the presentations when we visited each of your councils and board of supervisors. She had shared this slide with you, and this again was just a snapshot. This is literally one snapshot of the crash and fatality data in the CYMPO region in that 5-year period. I will tell you that this snapshot will turn into a 100+ page document that's going to break all of this down for each of your municipalities and us for a region. So, you know, looking at the bottom line, if you will, or in this case, the top line, there's been a total of 8,256 crashes in our region over that 5-year period. There's been 56 fatalities. This study will identify all locations of those crashes and fatalities. And in doing so, as part of the plan, we'll make recommendations to address those areas of concern and issues. As the MPOs involved, clearly, we're going to try and focus on what are regionally significant. But I want to be clear today that we're going to turn this over to each of your municipalities, that how you choose to follow up with all of those, you're more than welcome to. And we'll pick on Mayor Palguda for a minute, but looking at Prescott Valley, as part of this study, we will turn over the information as it relates to their 2,391 crashes, their 14 fatalities, and we'll break that down for the town of Prescott Valley along with each of your areas to show the data that supports what was involved in each of those crashes and each of those fatalities. Was it nighttime, daytime? Was it weather related? Was it distracted driving? Was it head-on collision? And then part of that plan will also make recommendation in those situations. Is a safety mitigation, adding a turn lane, adding lighting, adding a median, fill in the blank. So this safety plan will be comprehensive. We're well underway in gathering the data, but I do want to give Bryn a moment to talk about the survey related to this, because this is also a very important part that the public takes an active role in. So Bryn, if you want to hit on that.
Thank you, Vinny. Mr. Chair, members of the board. The safety study regionally is looking at the broad brush of those numbers. But what we're looking at when we get to the crash data and the crash maps that will be produced with the safety study, you'll be able to literally click a dot and have the basic information of that crash history, whether it was fatality, serious injury, or no injury. So the data is incredibly detailed that comes out of this safety study. And as a part of that, we initiate a big public engagement campaign to have people talk about safety. Thank you, Allison. Oop. She'll go back to the slide in just a moment. Next one. At any rate, public engagement, we have a survey that we have been distributing out via email to our distribution lists. And that does include this QR code, which if you are a user of QR codes, this will actually put you right into the survey just by using your phone to read the QR code, or you can go to the website and take the survey, or you can respond to the survey that's been pushed out by one of our emails. So the survey is, I believe, about 20 questions. It does get pretty detailed, but the highlight of the survey is that at the very end of it, there is what's called a pinpoint map. And if a person who's taken the survey has a particular experience with an intersection or an unsafe condition anywhere in the region, they can take the cursor and drop a pinpoint at that location and actually fill out a contact form that informs our consultant that there might be something to follow up on there. And so then that intersection or that unsafe condition is looked at. It is a 2-month public engagement exercise. So we've just opened this survey. So we'll have it posted and open on the CYMPO website for till about the end of April, early May. And our partners at NACOG and MetroPlan and Flagstaff are doing the same thing, but just in their jurisdiction. So again, it's a collaborative plan, but the data that is rendered from a plan like this is so impactful because our jurisdictions are able to take that information and really put it into their traffic planning.
And if I can close on that, Mr. Chair, members of the board, keep in mind, so we're getting the information, we're identifying the issues, we're coming up with the solutions, and then the third part of this is what Bryn just referred to, is it puts your municipalities in a position to pursue additional funding and or CYMPO to pursue it. So we use these safety plans again to justify, the traffic signal that we're getting for Fair Street and Gale Gardner, or the turn lane on Williamson Valley and Stasinski. It's things like that we then are able to pursue for funding based upon this particular study. So not only does it tell us the problems, but it gives answers to the problems and then the ultimate funding question. With that said, Mr. Chair, happy to take questions or comments on it.
Benny, now that we have a growing proliferation of roundabouts, it would be nice if you were capable of looking at the accident data and statistics in signaled intersections versus the roundabouts, whether it's fatalities or serious injuries and things like that. We've been told time and time again that roundabouts and rotaries are that much more safe. It'd be nice to be able to have the data now to be able to present that to the public when the cost of a roundabout is $3 to $4 million versus a few $100,000 for a signal. But if you can justify it with a much lower injury and fatalities, I think for the people who've lost a loved one, it's well worth it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to Mayor Good's point, this will produce that. We'll absolutely have that data point. Again, we're going to have more data than you know what to do with. So that would be one aspect of the study is we're going to have the crashes and fatalities. And on that chart, you have to bring it up again, but keep in mind there was multiple levels. There was serious injury, minor injury, no injury,
Possible
injury, property damage. So we're going to have it, as Bryn said, we'll not only be able to click on the dot on the map and you could have the data that you need, but to the mayor's point specifically, we'll be able to generate a report and tell you the analysis between signalized intersections and roundabouts. So we'll be able to produce that.
Anyone else? Two questions. One, where are you getting the data from?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the crash data is part of a statewide database that ADOT filters in, and all of that is received from the local
A
municipalities.
statewide database, then.
Statewide database that's generated. The input is coming from the law enforcement agencies.
So all of our law enforcement agencies are participating by supplying information on traffic accidents.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's, and it's going to one location. Because one of the problems we have is over counting the amount of fatalities at a certain intersection. Seems like the number grows without there actually being an occurrence, so.
The sheriff participates, the sheriff's office participates, each of your law enforcement agencies, police, DPS, they all participate. I would offer one challenge, not to get in the weeds in this conversation, but at times there is, some consistency issues, as to how the reporting is done. Reporting is contributed, but,
Well,
we'll
the
take
reason I'm asking this is because the DPS officers up there on I-40 report to a different location than the DPS officers working on Fane Road and I-17. So do we get the benefit of the information from them as well as the ones from 17?
Yeah, I would say, and again, when you click, if we were to look at the map right now, all 5,246 of those crashes all have data associated with them. You can click on them, see everything that's been reported. It was a DUI, what agencies submitted the information, time of day, factors involved. All of those things will be associated with it, but it's again initially generated by if you will, the first responders, the people doing those initial reports.
Well, it's the old adage, what's put in is what you get back.
Right.
And those are some of the challenges, you know, again, that consistency. And I think we've seen that over the years with like distracted driving in particular, again, not being in the historically a primary offense. You know, that's still a weak area of data of how much distracted driving is really contributing.
Well, and that's something, you know, we're urging, you know, Prescott Valley and their transit as well as Prescott's transit and YRT to give us numbers that are based on factual information. It only takes one time being caught miscalculating, shall we say, for the lack of a better term, and your credibility has just gone in the toilet.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may, one follow-up comment. I think one of the reasons this plan is so valuable is all of the other plans that CYMPO does that address road conditions and road projects and road and opportunities for additional capacity are at the collector and regionally significant roadway level. This particular plan, because we do source the information from public safety agencies, goes to each of your jurisdictions and literally doesn't matter how obscure the place is where the crash occurred, you're going to get that data. If repeated crashes occurred at that obscure location that isn't normally on CYMPO's radar because it's not a regionally significant road, then you have something that your traffic engineers and public safety officers can act on.
That's a great point. In addition to bicycle pedestrian, you know, and maybe one example, I don't know why it came to mind for Mayor Good, but look at like the downtown courthouse area, Montezuma, Gurley, you know, where you have the scramble, you know, again, that won't raise to the level of a regional priority for us, but for Mayor Good, council and staff, that will be helpful. And we'll be able to share with you for your purposes, you know, how many bicyclists or pedestrians may have had an incident in that intersection. That's all part of this. What we'll move forward with, we'll bring back to you, and it'll be, you know, Highway 69, 89, and so forth. But again, you're going to receive a wealth of information for you to move forward with as you choose.
Okay, any other questions?
Mr.
John?
Good, did you report yours that day? No, we're good.
Okay. All right. Possible action to approve the advertisement of the request for proposals for the Active Community Transportation Unified Plan Act Up. Vinny.
Randy.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'm going to ask Allison to get the slide back up. But you have in your packet a very comprehensive scope of work for something I've come and talked to you about a few times before as we introduced this plan concept, which is the Active Transportation Plan. We went ahead and provided some branding because we really want to get the communities involved in this planning process. And the acronym is Active Community Transportation Unified Plan, which pretty much sums up what we're doing. It is a regional plan. It will have a bicycle and pedestrian focus. All active transportation or alternative transportation plans do. In larger communities where there's more of a transit focus, they also introduce the transit nexus into the planning process. And that will be part of what we do with this plan as our transit systems are in the process of growing and developing. With the scope of work, you're going to have a sub-focus on individual jurisdictions. So you will have the opportunity to provide data and/or project scenarios to the consultants and work with them on your specific needs in your jurisdiction. Will it be a full-blown plan for each jurisdiction? Probably won't capture every opportunity, but at the level that CYMPO works, you'll have a real actionable document that has implementable projects at the end. Our funding scenario is this is an investment plan. This is a $250,000 plan that will incorporate transit funding, planning dollars that we normally receive, and also carbon reduction funding, which is eligible to be utilized for a plan like this. And that's a new source of funding that you guys are probably aware of. I know Vinny's talked about it before. With implementation, we're looking at the member agencies helping to identify projects in their specific jurisdictions. So we'll be working directly with your staffs and our consulting team to garner those project lists, and the consultant will help with the prioritization of those. We will look at near-term implementable projects as prioritized projects. And also this plan, because of the nature of it and not having had one before, will set us up for funding opportunities that we may not have been able to seek before. So that is one part of the master or meta value of the plan, the high level value. Let's go to the next slide, please, Allison. Again, I mentioned that the scope is voluminous, and if you got all the way through it, I applaud you. It was fun to write. It took a few months, but this is a basic outline of the scope that you've been introduced to. We obviously overview the project purpose, and we have a master vision and goals that we want to establish. Public engagement is a huge part of a plan like this, especially because I think people are a little more excited to talk about this. This goes to lifestyle. This goes to the way people like to get to and from places, not necessarily how they have to get to and from places. We will have a robust public engagement plan as a subcomponent of this planning process. The primary data gathering that the consultant will do is to inventory existing conditions. Where do we have bike lanes? Where do we have transit stops if transit is in play? Where do we have pedestrian-friendly crossings where we are protecting pedestrians on busy roadways? So we've got a lot of opportunities, and I think probably each of you are reflecting on your individual jurisdiction right now and thinking how this might play or how this might fit. But with active transportation, we're also talking about, you know, trail users, multi-use path users, and electronic device users. So the inventory of existing conditions is pretty important because we have to look across the user base and decide what the priorities are for the opportunities that we'll have in the project list. We always consult with our land use and development colleagues at the jurisdictions to make sure that we have accurate and up-to-date information on housing approvals, which all feeds into road counts and how people get to and from places and where they're starting and where they're ending up. Our safety plan is the perfect backdrop, the one that we just highlighted a few moments ago for the active transportation plan, because it really helps us hone in on those areas that may require more mitigation, where more bicyclists or more pedestrians have been involved in injury accidents. So that's we're perfectly timed when it comes to that. We also want to look at schools. Vinny and I have gone to each of the districts and met with the superintendents, and we're going to be working with their facilities directors and their planning process as a district to identify how we can more safely get walkers and bicyclists to our school campuses in the region.
Will that include charter schools and parochial schools?
We're talking about what level of detail we can get to, and we do believe that we can actually include the charter schools. That's a part of the conversation that is actually sort of kind of newish, but we will report back on that. And yes, I do believe we will be able to capture charter schools as well. Origin and destination, again, this gets back to where are people most of the time starting from and where are they oftentimes going. We want to know those things because we want to make sure that we place our facilities where most people are going or coming from. And then again, the identification of gaps and opportunities, this goes to creating a complete network. So when we look at the network, we look for areas where we can install facilities to make a more complete network in the regionally significant roads.
Is that broken down by city and town or county or whatever?
There will be a sub-focus for each jurisdiction, yes. So there will, and we're in conversation with each of your jurisdiction staff about this planning process. Projects and design concepts, again, we're looking for readily implementable projects. A few come to mind, and one of them is Mayor Good's project, the project that the city of Prescott just did by the library and the VFW. Sometimes a safety concern really does feed the conversation about how to make pedestrian access more safe. So that's American Legion, sorry about that. Thank you. Again, investment priorities across those implementable projects. What which of the projects either require or deserve more of our time and focus in order to garner funding. So we'll be doing that type of analysis as well. And then obviously implementation, we want to see this in the built environment. We don't want to create a plan that sits on a shelf and is talked about some of the time. We want to actually see this in our pedestrian and bicycle and at times transit opportunities. So we really are looking toward implementation, and a sidecar of implementation is that code amendments may be necessary in each of the jurisdictions to fully capture the opportunity of installing a new bike lane or a pedestrian facility. There may be some code amendments that are necessary, so our consultant would help with that guidance as well. Let's see what else. I guess what this comes back to is there's a lot of chatter about this plan right now. Part of it is that we've been going around talking about it quite a bit, but the other part of it is that we have a lot of special interest groups that really play into this type of transportation. Prescott Mountain Bikers Association, we've got Prescott Street Cyclists. There are organizations across the region that are focused on trail use and equestrian activities. So we are in the process of gathering a stakeholder list and getting all of the right voices in the room. And the most enthusiastic voices are going to be heard through this plan and seen in the built environment eventually. So really excited about this. I know the scope is large and there's a lot to it, but I am happy to respond to any of your questions or comments.
Any questions, gentlemen?
I just applaud the fact that you're going to be eventually including charter schools. Because there's so much traffic associated with those schools that don't have bus systems. That they impact some of the feeder streets and arterials to a very large extent. And that would have almost an immediate impact on improving your congestion.
That's a great point, Member Good. I think that charter schools oftentimes are in retrofitted environments. Oftentimes they've been a school or an apartment building or some sort, and they are oftentimes not situated like a normal school campus is. So that is a great opportunity to look at those facilities around charter schools and see where we can help with access.
Good job, Ms. Tutler.
Thank you.
Tom?
I'm fine with it, thanks.
John?
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, as usual. Okay, do we know how many miles of sidewalk we have currently in any given jurisdiction? Okay, the answer is no.
I don't think CYMPO knows
I
that.
only ask no questions because that way I don't have to know anything else.
I know it loosely correlates to lane,
We
miles, but not one-to-one.
Do we know where there are bike paths within the county
Yes,
that exist?
yes.
We're sure. How many miles are there on 260? Today.
It's outside of-
But a curveball there, Chairman.
It's up because ADOT primarily is responsible for 260, even though it's in the city of, both cities over there, Cottonwood
Chicago White Sox.
and Verde Valley. But I just happened to notice today that there were several sections about a mile long of bikeway. And in between two of them, there was a section of sidewalk. And there is not a house for miles from those locations. So the question is, why did we put them in there? Who is maintaining them? And was this a good way to spend money?
Sidewalk to nowhere.
I would much rather go with the plan that, Prescott Valley has with their bike corridors and their walking corridors, things like that. Same as trying to be developed in Prescott City. And especially in the newer areas, we should be maybe thinking about this, and us as elected officials should think about it when we're looking at our PADs. It's not just open space, it's dedicated to a transportation. So just throwing that out there, that there is some out there that I'm not even sure we know is there.
If I may make a comment to that end, Mr. Chair, I think that's a really, really great question to ask, because if you're,
You get a star for the day.
yeah. When new college campuses, for instance, are being built, they've stopped placing sidewalks where they think the students should go, and they instead wait to see where the students go. Because otherwise you're gonna have this path worn into the grass, because that's where the students actually want to go. It makes much more sense to identify where the paths are versus sticking a sidewalk to nowhere and hoping they use it, so.
And Mr. Chair, members of the board, reminder, you're driving the study, you and your staff are driving it, you know, so we're gonna be in constant conversation with your staff and what you have and you don't have. We'll be working with your general plans, we'll be working, we know some are in process currently. But we're gonna take current inventory of what is currently out there, Chairman Brown, in this situation. I know yesterday you and I spoke and we kind of ran through our heads, well, you got Willow Lake Road, you got Williamson Valley, and you start taking this mental inventory, we'll put it in the document, and in the end, we'll know exactly where it is. And you'll, as part of this process, will dictate, again, so that we don't have those opportunities of islands of sidewalks that don't make sense.
Well, I just remember going back about 10 years ago that there was, you know, we made a lot of efforts to make parking areas available for buses picking up and delivering children, you know, from school. And we dedicated a considerable amount of money and then turned around and the bus driver said they're not going to use them and still use the middle of the street. And so there we wasted a bunch of money, even though they were supposedly our partner and going to participate. And it just happened to be out of one specific school district, which I won't mention. But it kind of burned us up that we spent that kind of money and time doing something on the right of way to be used for, you know, safeguarding the children. And then all of a sudden, some other group decides we're not playing the same game you are.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to. So just, I hate to see us put in a lot of bikeways and sidewalks. And then nobody's using them because they all get on a bus in front of their house.
Again, Mr. Chair, you'll have the opportunity to vet those situations and we're gonna, it's a 12-month process. So we want your eyes on it. We want your staff on it. We want you to challenge it. And we also want you to think outside the box, brainstorm, you know, what are things, you know, I know Prescott on Willow Lake Road has done some bicycle improvements with signage, with delineators, with green pavement. It's things like that should be discussed and highlighted. Is that of value? Do other jurisdictions want to follow suit? This is not one size fits all. We truly realize the diversity that you all represent. So we're not trying to make it one size fits all.
Well, it would also seem that, you know, just dollar and cents wise, it would seem that, you know, some of these pathways or bikeways would be a lot easier and cheaper to put in than putting in sidewalks. Sidewalks are costly.
Yeah, it may be a matter of shoulder improvements. We realize, you know, Dewey, Humboldt, Chino Valley, again, some of the rural characteristics there. And again, is it more equestrian trail, things of that nature? We respect each of your jurisdictions and that will be part of the planning process.
John?
I make a motion to approve advertisement of the request for proposal for the act up as presented.
A second.
Second, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, I keep forgetting ask about you, Gary. You're up in the small portion of
That's
this.
all right. I'm listening to the conversation.
All
Right.
right,
I'll add one more comment or I see a lot of surveys and very few people participate in them. But the conclusions of those surveys are used to move projects forward. And then after they're created, they generate a lot of criticism because people say, well, I never had a chance to weigh in on that. So I think it's important for us in each of our communities to make sure that people are aware that these surveys are ongoing and what the impact will be from that data and be able to encourage people to participate. So maybe if you can write up a little announcement or something that we could read at our city council meetings over the course of that year, maybe we can get more participation and have more legitimate input to be able to draw conclusions from.
and especially since they're online.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Mayor, absolutely, we'll follow up on that with you and your staff or all of you. And we currently have a survey. Brent talked about it. It's a safety survey. It's open for the next 2 months. We want your citizens to participate in it. We're going to come up with a study and say, again, a very small amount that said, they don't feel safe riding a bike in a certain area when you have 50,000 citizens and you get, 20, 30 responses back. So yes, we want your help in promoting this. So we'll work with you and get that info out there.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 11, review, discussion, and possible action to approve the transit planning intergovernmental agreement with the town of Prescott Valley. Great.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you. So I think Allison has done a great job capturing the gist of this item on the cover sheet, which is found in your packet. But basically, this IGA, which has been fully vetted by town council and CYMPO's council, and as well as ADOT, formalizes an agreement between CYMPO and the town based on the town's status as the direct recipient under the 5307 funding program. They are active in that program as a result of opting into the CARES Act funding and starting the microtransit system, just to set the table for how we got to 5307. But you guys have been hearing about 5307 for a long time because CYMPO has been receiving an annual allocation of 5307 funding. It used to be about $1.2 million. Now it's about $1.7 million, and it comes to the small urbanized region, the Prescott Valley, Prescott area. So what you're seeing on this cover sheet is basically just a breakdown of planning dollars that we will be receiving as a subrecipient as Prescott Valley seeks their 5307 funding. We are eligible to apply for planning dollars, and we are applying those planning dollars to some of the plans and programs that you've heard about today. So basically, again, the IGA itself has been vetted by legal counsel. It simply formalizes an agreement whereby planning dollars are passed through the town of Prescott Valley to CYMPO to carry out or contribute to these planning projects. And yeah, that's all I have on that. Sorry.
Any further questions, comments?
I'd like to say this is a great opportunity for us to just leverage funding that we normally would never get to put towards such things that Ms. Stotler has already touched on in regards to planning. So this is great for all of us, I believe.
So will this be focused more on 69 and being able to widen that and move traffic more effectively, or are you going to use it for analyzing the expansion of the other line?
So this particular agreement is a reflection only, Member Good, I'm sorry, is a reflection only of the relationship with CYMPO and the pass-through funding that CYMPO will receive to support planning projects. So where you see the 69 urbanized corridor master plan, we're allocating funding from the 5307 program to support those planning activities. Same with the ACT UP and the coordination plan. So this item in particular only refers to these planning dollars and the relationship between CYMPO and the town of Prescott Valley to utilize those funds.
Understood.
So this is just an IGA between CYMPO and town of Prescott Valley over the 5307 fund, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions, Tom?
Nope.
Gary, you got any questions on that one?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I make a
John?
motion to approve the transit plan IGA with town of Prescott Valley for use of the 5307 funds. Perfect.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed, so it's unanimous again. Moving on to item number 12. All right, introduction and scope of work for the environmental needs assessment and mitigation plan.
Did you want to introduce that?
Lindsay?
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, if I could just do a brief lead in for Lindsay here. This does tie back into funds that Bryn referenced earlier, the carbon reduction funds. If you remember, I had previously announced to you that for the next 5 years, CYMPO is receiving these additional funds It's $186,000 a year for the carbon reduction program. The last few months, staff has been looking at the best way to utilize these funds in our particular region and bring them forward to you for our recommendation and your consideration. What we have identified in year one for the funding of the carbon reduction funds is currently the city of Prescott and Yavapai County are talking about doing a project improvement on Pioneer Parkway. What that would be is it's a trailhead project that's being discussed. The trailhead that's there, the projected project would be to pave the trailhead and construct some bathroom facilities on that property. I believe the estimated cost is around $1 million for those improvements. The discussions are ongoing. All that to say that this would be an eligible project that CYMPO would be able to contribute these carbon reduction funds for its purpose, again, of promoting walking, hiking, trail activity use. So all that to say, with your ultimate approval, I think it's in our amendments, we would be able to go ahead and contribute $186,000 towards the city of Prescott, the county project of this improvement. Now, with that said, this is where we segue into year two of the funding as we look to program that funds. One of them is to actually do what we're titling an environmental needs assessment and mitigation plan. With that said, it meets the eligibility of these particular funds for our area. I know Supervisor Brown and I have spoke previously about air quality in the area, and if you've heard us talk about it before, we're right on the border of reaching another level of requirements by the federal government because of our air quality. Surprisingly or ironically, one of the challenges is the number of trees we have in our area. So it impacts the quality of air, and it records that. But all that to say, when we have either a study or an action plan like this, it does prevent us from getting into those additional requirements. So this can be a beneficial thing to the region. With that said, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn it back to Lindsay and let her walk you through this plan. Again, it's for discussion only today. So we are just looking for your initial impact, and we'll bring it back to you at a later date with a final scope to move forward. Lindsay?
Sure. Thank you, Vinny. Mr. Chair, the page that you have in front of you has the project scope that we've developed, and it's very similar to a lot of scopes of work that you're familiar with in our projects. So, of course, getting an inventory of what the current conditions are related to our environment and the connectivity of our wildlife migration patterns. Identify land use and development, something similar to what Bryn just discussed in her plan. Identify those wildlife migration patterns, develop and prioritize projects, and help us create a path to implementation that we can work with our locals with to get started on right away. The scope that you see here and the schedule that you have on the next page, which I'll talk about in just a second, might seem like there's not enough time to devote to this scope of work. However, you might notice that, for example, there already is a very recent wildlife migration study related to traffic collisions done by ADOT. A lot of this work will already be captured by plans like that. For example, SR 69 Urbanized Master Corridor Plan, one of the tasks is to inventory the land use and development planning. So we could use those to inform this plan. So for those reasons, the schedule is not as long as some of our other plans, and we're able to hit the ground running actually this year in trying to plan some implementation. So the appendices that you see there will help us structure and develop the best practices for our EMAC subcommittee. I am the staff liaison to that subcommittee. So that's the Ecosystem Connectivity Mitigation Advisory Committee. And they help advise us on our projects through an environmental lens, environmental connectivity lens. And they are a subcommittee of the TAC. Right now, that's Frank Marbury, who is the TAC liaison. Our plan is to bring the final scope to the TAC and the board in April and May. And with approval, we would be able to develop the RFP and get that out on the street so that we can select a consultant for this scope of work this summer. project completion is in October or November, so fall of this year. So it's a quick turnaround. And that's good for us because EMAC has been chomping at the bit to do a lot of work. They've got a lot of passion and they've got a lot of time on their hands. So therefore, they feel that they're ready to take the next step and to have a little bit more structure in the work that they do. So this plan will also help us do that. As Benny just mentioned, we are currently in an attainment area for our air quality. This will help us maintain this and not fall into non-attainment. So, Mr. Chair, with that, I welcome any comments or questions.
Any comments or
Where
questions?
exactly is this trailhead on Pioneer Parkway?
Good question. Mr. Chair, do you know
We have
exactly?
a,
I know Dan Cherry's not here, but
an unimproved area right there in Williamson Valley and the Pioneer Parkway on the northeast corner.
This further east from
Yeah,
Pioneer
the
Parkway,
further
east.
further east
It's a mile mark, approximately mile marker 1.
on the south side of Pioneer Parkway.
Oh, actually on the north side.
North side, I'm sorry, north side.
BLM land.
That's what I was-
We've been talking with Joe Baines from the city. Joe's working on it from his angle, also Tom Riley. And his action, working with Trails Committee people and our public works folks are talking about it and CYMPO obviously. And basically seeing if we can, work some way to put this thing together where we'll have a parking area for equestrian related animals and vehicles. And also have a bathroom that's available for those folks using, the trail system up through there. It goes through the city and the county and the BLM, state, everywhere else. And thinking that this will be in addition to what may occur at Springfield Ranch eventually in the future, that'll link us up with Little Granite Mountain Lake.
so we recognize those conversations are ongoing. I don't know that anything's been finalized, but from CYMPO's end, at least.
Well, nobody's spent any money yet. The county has not made an actual project yet. We're in the same stage. That the city and everybody else is in. We're still learning about it, talking about it, seeing what level of support there is. And also even see if possible that we could get some significant funding from state parks. So,
And that's at this point, Chairman and Member Good, the CYMPO has 886 to put towards the project if the two decide to officially move forward with it.
So that's that area just to the west of Williams Valley Road as you enter into the Springfield Ranch development.
no, it's east.
East of Williams. and
You're thinking of a
towards
parking
Canyon.
area that's not supposed to be a parking area.
Right.
Yeah.
Go further
That's the
east,
east
a
of
mile
that.
marker down Pioneer
So it's
Parkway.
closer to the entrance to Hidden Valley, Hidden Hills.
It's partially down that
Yes.
direction, yeah.
Okay.
'Cause that's down about mile marker 3.
All right.
Go.
So we'll see how that goes. We don't need to take any action on this, is my understanding, correct? By the way, the county we have penciled in, I think it's $500,000 in the county. Okay. Moving on to item number 13. A review and discussion of simple legislative projects and RTAC update. Do you know if we're going to have RTAC with us today? Mr.
Mr.
Adam?
Chair, members of the board, Kevin has not signed in, so I assume he's doing work on our behalf down at the Capitol. So I'll just briefly take a swing at it. Hopefully you've all received email updates, but fingers crossed, things are still moving forward on behalf. To the best of my knowledge, the standalone bills outside of RTAC are dead at this point. They have not moved forward. They were not given an assignment. They were not scheduled in committee, I should say. However, both of those projects still remain part of our RTAC ask. As Kevin provided an update in an email, those have cleared the House of Representatives. And next week, they will be heard in committee through the Senate. So again, reminder is we have safety and capacity improvements for Glassford Hill Road in the town of Prescott Valley between 89 and Long Look by the high school there. And then in the town of Chino Valley, the ADOT facility, State Route 89 from roads 3 to 5 north. And the total of our request through the RTAC bill is 3 million,
23.2 million.
23 million, so around $23 million. So that's all I have at this point. And
Also, within that, we should note, even though we don't participate with them actively, that they are also, this involves two projects over in the Verde Valley that are part of the county, so. And they're being represented by NACOG.
yeah, to your point, Mr. Chair, again, remember, we're part of a $300 million ask of the state legislature. Again, of which CYMPO region would receive $23 million for those two projects. To the chair's point, NACOG is going through the same process. Again, they have some projects identified in the Verde Valley, so. You know, for what it's worth, I heard from Representative Wynn yesterday and just doing some follow-up. So again, I'm hopeful at this point. We'll see what happens.
Keep our fingers crossed. Things have looked good so far, but that happened last year too, until the 12th hour and we lost it all. So. Anyway, okay, moving on to item number 14. Allison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Today we are seeking an amendment to our fiscal year 22-23 Unified Planning Work Program. In your packets, you have a list of the changes that we're looking to make, followed by pages from the work program with those highlighted changes. And rather than going step by step through all of those changes, I will summarize that and then open it up for any questions. We're looking to make some administrative changes, such as updating our committee role for the 2023 calendar year. Also looking to remove and add some projects on page 21. We're looking to remove the project we have listed called the social equity analysis. As we've learned more about what that project is, we've learned that it will be a component of future projects, not necessarily a standalone project. Also adding the boundary expansion evaluation that was approved by the board in January, and the regional strategic transportation safety plan that was just previously discussed. And then lastly, the environmental assessment of needs and mitigation analysis project. The second section here is our financial changes. These changes are necessary for the adding and removing of projects. These changes also include CYMPO keeping up with the ever-changing updates that come from ADOT with regard to updated apportionment amounts that we receive throughout the year. Benny and I work closely at managing our budget and making sure that it balances. We work closely with ADOT Finance to ensure we're using our funds in the most efficient way possible, as well as with Yavapai County Finance. So I will leave it at that and answer any questions you may have. Specifically.
Are you and Mr. Guy together on this?
Yes, sure, we are. Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, it's this is a good exercise in bureaucracy. We have more checks and balances than we know what to do with. So as Allison mentioned, we work through Yavapai County Finance as our fiscal agent, ADOT Finance, Federal Highway Administration, ADOT, and ultimately you. So yes, with that said, we are endorsing these amendments.
This is mostly an update, really, isn't it?
It is, it's ongoing updates as we manage the funds of CYMPO and again, apply it to a variety of projects.
Okay, anybody have any specific questions? Well, Gary, any questions on that?
It's the federal
Nope.
government
None.
imbalance is a little more effective.
Okay, well, I make a motion to accept the Unified Planning Work Program updates as presented.
Second.
Seconded?
Yep.
Okay, got a first and a second, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Almost there, one more.
Couple more. Just a couple more.
Okay, possible action to approve the amendment to the FY 22-26 Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program. Again, Allison, take it away.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, and if I could say ditto for this agenda item, I would, but basically we're making the same changes that we made for the work program. We've listed out all of the financial changes and moving of funding. Also included in your packet are the pages of the tip with those highlighted changes. So again, I'll just open up for any questions and also turn it over to Vinny to address a couple items on the list, number 7 and 8.
Thank you, Allison. Mr. Chair, members of the board, as Allison turns it over to me. So we highlighted again that number 7, that's that Pioneer, thank you, Pioneer Parkway Trailhead that we will go ahead. I'm sorry, I said 186. It's actually 184,000. We'll go ahead and wait to hear from the city of Prescott and Yavapai County if you decide to officially move forward, but we do have those fundings to contribute towards it. And then on number 8, just a reminder that we were successful in getting the congressionally directed spending through Senator Mark Calley's office and the federal government for the State Route 89A Design Concept Report Environmental Overview. That $480,000 for the design concept would ultimately lay the foundation for the widening of State Route 89A in the future between the interchange of 89 and Glassford Hill Road. So as CYMPO is aware of growth and development for the city of Prescott and the town of Prescott Valley in that corridor, again, capacity projected in that area will be needed. So just want to show that that was already previously programmed, but since we were beneficiaries of these monies, we are able to then use the monies that we would have for other projects. So with that said, again, same as the work program amendment, Mr. Chair, happy to take questions, comments, but we endorse these amendments for your consideration.
Any questions? I don't see any. And do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, John's making a motion to approve the amendment to the fiscal year 2022-26 CYMPO Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program, MTIC as presented, and I'll second that motion.
We're just gonna sit back, Craig.
You want to approve it?
No.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay. On to number 16.
All right, Allison, if you will pull the PowerPoint up. Please. So it is that time of year again, actually every 2 years when we do this. Next slide, please. Takes a minute. It's catching up with itself. Hold on.
Goodness gracious.
One more. There you go. So you do have the work program in your packet. What I'm trying to do this year is simplify it. Again, we have a long meeting, so I try to put it to the highlights in a few PowerPoint slides for you. Just realize that you have the entire work program in your packet. A reminder is our work program is a 2-year planning work program that identifies activities and the transportation planning budget for the metropolitan area. So this will cover fiscal years 24 and 25. This is a draft. We will bring the final one to you in the next 2 months. So this is an opportunity for you to be introduced to it, ask questions, and allow staff time to bring it back. Will you go to the next slide, please? Okay. So to let you know, the work program has our mission and introduction next. It talks about our organization and management. All of this is fairly standard for the MPO. Then it talks about funding description and budget summary next. This is a list of, again, acronyms that staff will throw out on a regular basis, and I appreciate those of you that remind us to tell, especially the public, what SPR, STBG, and all these things are. This is a listing of the current funds, the federal funds that we receive as an organization. So again, you'll see these referenced whenever you ask on any given project, where are the funds coming from? They're coming from one of these particular categories. So again, CYMPO receives something identified as statewide planning funds or SPR, Surface Transportation Block Grant, STBG. Keep going down the list. Today we've talked about carbon reduction, and then we also have access to federal transit funds, or we work with organizations, as we mentioned earlier. Prescott and Prescott Valley are now receiving 5307. We have the IGA now to use some of those for planning dollars. As Mayor Palguda said, it's a win-win for all of us. We can leverage those dollars. But again, in the work program, each of these particular funds are discussed in detail. what they are, what the requirements of the match are, and so forth. Next slide, please. So here's maybe the bottom line, if you will, in the budget, looking to fiscal year 24. All the details are in the work program, but we're looking to a budget of about $1.9 million. Again, of those particular funds basically translate into this. So next slide. Of that almost $2 million budget, here's the cost of doing business with CYMPO. And to me, I think it's a positive. I think it's an incredible positive. When you look at what is it, the cost of business for working to having CYMPO for each of your municipalities, it comes down to a breakdown of percentage based upon population. I won't read the whole list, but you can see that Yavapai County in the CYMPO region has a population at this time of 33,224 people. That's 23% of it. And their match responsibility for that $2 million budget is $37,000. And then you can go down the list. City of Prescott, again, your cost of doing business with CYMPO is $52,000 a year. Prescott Valley, $53,000, and so forth. So to me, the real highlight again is really our real success is our partnership, is our working together, our leveraging dollars, that we are able to access $1.9 million, and the cost to you all is $162,000 in order to access 1.9 million. All of those studies we talked about earlier take the active transportation plan. That's $250,000. Again, it's coming from this. When we highlight a project like when we went after the safety grants, we went after $20,000. We used $20,000. We'll just use that traffic signal at Gale Gardner and Fair Street. That's $1 million that we were able to take 20,000, turn it into $1 million. So I'm saying that this is a very much of a positive thing. Here's the last positive note on this. Well, that's your match responsibility. You, through your time as a board, through your TAC, through your staff, whittle that down. So very often we're not sending you, please send us, write a check and send it, but your time is being accounted for currently. Your staff that maybe is behind me are working on behalf of CYMPO, and we'll use Prescott Valley. So, well, I might look to Mayor Palguda, owes CYMPO $53,000. Very often that comes in his time, Gilbert's time, staff, Pedro's time, any of those time that gets whittled down. So there are times where we will send, a request for payment, but very often that's accounted for in your time. So next slide, that's fiscal year 24, fiscal year 25. We're projecting a budget of about $1.4 million. There is a flux again with a number of these things. When you look at congressionally directed spending, when we go after different grants, that's why you'll see a range. Next slide, please. And again, cost of doing business, we would look to the following year. Your local match, if it stays where it's at, would be a little bit less than fiscal year 24. Right now, we're projecting again a total match in order to access 1.4 million. The regional match is 146,000. I will make one note for Yavapai County. They are able to significantly reduce their match responsibilities because CYMPO currently has an agreement with them to provide office space, to provide human service, IT, facilities, fiscal management. All of that is used for in-kind. The history of CYMPO, at one point, we had that partnership with Prescott, then we moved to Prescott Valley, and now we're with the county. So it's, whoever our best landlord is at the time, we're willing to talk with them. John, and
I got a room. I got a room.
all this could be yours. We could share office space. So, Prescott Valley at one point had us in the basement, and we thought we needed some windows. So the county took us, I think it was Carol Springer at the time, welcomed us. Either way, a little bit of history there. So those are the budget tables, and I think I have one more slide, I believe. Keep going. Work elements, go ahead and click. These are the different sections that you'll see. So 100 is administration, 200 regional planning projects, 300 public engagement, 400 transit activities, 500 environmental. Not to get too much in the nuts and the bolts, but when Allison goes to get reimbursement from the federal government for our funds, the feds and the state use this document to refer back to, and they say that one of your projects that we've either talked about or haven't are identified in here. So again, it requires that critical element. So I think is there one more? Thank you. So this document is a production of the CYMPO staff, the technical committee, and today you as an executive board. We have worked with ADOT management to create this document over the years, ADOT planning, ADOT finance, Yavapai County finance, the Federal Highway Administration, the Federal Transit Administration, and again, legal counsel on our behalf. In addition to your review today and ultimate, hopefully, consideration for approval, the Federal Highway Administration will also conduct their annual review of this document and ensure we've crossed our T's, dotted our I's. So we're waiting on that to be scheduled. And with that said, I am more than happy to take questions or comments, Mr. Chair.
Question?
Nope.
None?
Simple. Do that, good presentation.
I try.
Okay.
I had to use the restroom.
Any questions, Gary?
I'm good.
Okay. All right.
I had to find them. I had to find a mute, unmute it.
All right, the ADOT Northwest District Report. Is there somebody here from ADOT? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Anthony. How are you doing?
Doing fine, how are you?
Good.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I want to start off my updates with speaking of safety, we have some HSIP letters that came out. So we're starting that process. One of them was for SR69, Lee Boulevard and Walker Road. That is, we started the design work for raised median and extended acceleration lane in that area. The other two areas are on 89. One is north of 5M for passing lane. I think one's a little further up, almost into the forest boundary area. About coast 349 and 351. So those are our current HSIP projects we're working on. Projects under construction. We'll start with the I-17 west area. Sorry, broadband. West area. That's almost wrapped up. We did our testing. We have a few punch list items to take care of, but definitely getting wrapped up.
So Anthony, can you say again the Lee Boulevard Walker Road project?
That is a raised medium and extension of the acceleration lane.
So when are you gonna start?
We just got our letters saying that they are eligible to start, so there will be some time to get some designers on board, get that moving. So early phases of development on that.
Can you give me a ballpark estimate?
Fiscal year
After the
24
Frontier
design.
Village project is completed?
Well, we'll get to that one.
Okay.
Fiscal year 24 for design, 25 for construction.
I have a question, Anthony, before you move on. You mentioned 69. What's going on there in that one section of 69 on the north side of the highway in Prescott? Right there by U-Haul and Lowe.
That's,
What is that?
The road, aren't they? The water tower?
no, they're expanding that. 2 lanes, one in each direction, but they're doing utility locate right now,
Oh,
relocating utilities.
So that's part of the relocation?
That's.
Go. Go ahead.
We're trying to get started.
Sorry, I jumped
Thanks for
in.
asking.
You're good.
So on SR 69, the Big Bug Ford Poland Junction. That is currently under shutdown as soon as we get weather temps that we need for the evening pavement, evening night. We'll get started on that one. Back up. The SR 89A from 89 to Malcolm's 322. That is also under shutdown. So same thing, as soon as we get our temps, we'll be back out there. And then the last one we're shut down is 89A from Glassford to Coyote Springs. So those will all be going in with the better weather. The I-17 Sunset Point West area.
The ground is complete. And we are doing ADQ testing, water tank rehab is ongoing. Interior masonry is complete. Working on the drywall, electrical, and we're looking to pave in April.
Do you see any exceptional amount of money or at least effort being put into the pothole problem we've got on a number of these roads now, especially with the weather? It's not your fault, it's just the weather.
Yes, we are destroying our maintenance budget, I'll say, trying to keep up with having problems. Once the weather permits us to actually get out there and do a longer term temporary maintenance fix.
Better fix.
Better, permanent, per se. We'll get out there with our maintenance crews, and what we can schedule the projects, certainly work on that as well. But yes, it's the alliance.
It's not getting better either.
Yeah. It's the I-17, 169 deck rehab at the TI there. We had our kickoff meeting. We anticipate to start work in April. And then the Anthem Way Sunset Point. I'm sure you guys have all seen all the earthwork and familiar with the blasting and closures we have. So I direct you back to the website again to keep that well updated with how that project is progressing. As far as what we have in design, SR 69 Sherwood Stone Ridge. Bid opening was on May 10th. And we do have a parallel bidder, so we expect to see that by the board Friday. SR 69 Prescott Lakes.
That'll be before the board on Friday, or are you going to,
So
are you going to be talking to them?
I will be presenting at the board on Friday, but I will not be addressing the projects that are.
Great, thank you. Gary can't wait.
I just got one question. How's the road gonna be when I come up tomorrow on, I'll be coming up Yarnell Hill and come up 89.
Just watch the potholes.
They all clear?
If you're coming up 60, we're actively patching. Garnet Hill's pretty good.
We got rained on today.
Well, I know it's raining today, probably. It says it's raining, but no snow. That's all I care about.
So Prescott Lake Parkway to Frontier Village, that is anticipated to be advertised in May. That's the one you see the utility relocation continuing to push this effort. SR 169 Grant Woods Parkway with I-17, we are looking to have a bid advertisement in the fourth quarter of 23 for one short project out there. 89 off those three.
You got plenty of rumble strips out there right now, though.
Those are icebreakers.
Hedging errors, yes. SR 89 off those 339 and 363. We anticipate that satellite rumble strip project to bid in the fourth quarter of 23 as well. And SR 69, 169 roundabouts. District minor project. We're still looking at a third quarter fiscal year 24 to bid that. We're looking at stage 3 submittal in April. So that is progressing through that effort. SR 89 at Little Ranch Road is a northbound left turn lane also. We're in stage 3 again this April and bid advertisements in the fourth quarter of 24.
All right. Any questions?
Good job.
Good job.
Any questions?
Just advertising for bids for the Frontier Village project, May 23. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
I remember that's the first question you asked me when I started here a year ago.
It's only been 10 years.
Yeah.
A mile.
1 mile.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. Transportation Board report. Gary, you're on.
Okay, as you all know, I'll be up there for the Transportation Board meeting on Friday. There are 3 items on the agenda for board approval. First one's in the consent agenda, item 3D, that's SR 69, Portis Junction, Prescott Highway, Truewood Drive, Stone Ridge Drive. It's 100% state funded, recommended to be awarded to Pavco, just under 4 million, and it came in under estimate by 14.8%. It's replace asphalt and other sundry items that go along with that, some guardrail stuff, and it's 125 working days for completion. That's on the consent agenda for approval. Then we've got PPAC, the 6L, which is State Route 96, milepost 10, the Santa Maria Bridge, deck rehab and scour retrofit. That's $800,000, and that's establish a new project. So the board's being asked to put that one on the 5-year plan for right away. Then one last one is agenda item 10B. It's Cornville Road, Tissau Road to Beaverhead Flat Road. The work consists of widening the existing shoulders, installing rumble strips, and construct drainage and some additional jobs too. It's on the agenda to be awarded by the board for just under 4 million, 140 working days, and it's to be awarded to Earth Resources Corporation. And that's all that's on this upcoming agenda for your area. I take any questions if anybody's got any. But
Gary.
we'll be there on Friday. I'll be there Thursday. I'll see how you guys Thursday. Tomorrow night.
Okay. One question about rumble strips. Is that where when people are going off the road that they can confirm they're off the road?
Well, remember, the only one that's got rumble strips is
Cornville.
Cornville Road. They were going to widen the existing shoulders, so they'll do what's needed so they can install the rumble strips.
Right. If nobody has anything else, we'll adjourn until tomorrow evening at Prescott Lakes Country Club for dinner and reception for the ADOT new chief and the ADOT board.
Yeah, you'll get to meet the new director, Jennifer Toth.
See you tomorrow, Gary.
Okay.
Want a
you.
copy of her bio? I happen to have one, and we'll get my assistant to send you one.
I'd like to go in here. Right.
We adjourned?
All right, we're adjourned.